Questions on what we went over on Tuesday, on the packet tracer and the basic commands on iOS? All right, what I want to do today, as the rest of the chapters is going through other commands and they show you on that. Probably the big one though still for you that I don't remember if I mentioned in here or not. I did yesterday, but I don't remember in this class. Is when it comes to when they tell you to put the IP addresses into the PC, that if you double click on the PC and it'll come up with that same type screen that we went to, that we did the CLI on the switch, and there's a desktop on there, and I think we did go to that, but then to put the addresses in, you'll go to that IP addressing, the first little icon, instead of where I mentioned about where if it makes you go through the PC, which I do believe it did in here the other day, where I had to use the console cable and you had to go through that on the exercise I showed y'all. One of those exercises at least doesn't make you do it that way, and one does. And I think the one I did in here made us do it that way, didn't it? Because it had everything locked up on us, I think. Where the one I did in the class yesterday, whichever exercise I chose of it to use as my example I was doing, it had the switch unlocked and you can just double click straight into the switch on it. So of those 4 that you've got to do, a couple of them have it done one way and at least one has it done a different way, okay? Or that you can do a different way, but you can always put the console cable there and go from the PC into the switch or the router on it, okay? But normally they will let you in packet tracer go directly into the switch or router. Now in real world, you've got to go through the PC into the switch or router through that console port. Does that make everybody follow on that? So let's look today, and so we'll probably be out not real long today. But I kept y'all longer the other day, I believe. So I guess you're owed some time. Let's look at a real switch on the real equipment using the putty. And so let's get on that machine. I need one of you to log on for me first, because I can't log on to student machines. And we don't have putty up here on this machine. So y'all are going to have to get up and get around.
Log out of this one first?
No, they'll let you log on multiple places. So y'all are going to have to come up and stand around to be able to see the screen. But I can't log on student machines and y'all can't log on faculty machines. So once you do that, then I can get on. Okay. And I don't think I've got putty up there on that machine, so. And then the other problem is trying to get the cable plugged in. All right, so I've taken the console cable. It is plugged in the serial port on this PC. So if y'all got down and crawled down there, you could find that. And then I've plugged it into the console port on here. So it is all plugged in. So everybody follow on what we've done on that part? So now if I go in to putty, comes up with this first one and it asks us how are we going to go into this thing, and it's set to SSH by default, which I think I mentioned in here is the secure one as opposed to telnet. It encrypts across, but we're going to just use a telnet session going in here. We're not worried about traffic getting stolen going to the console port and a direct plug in. So I'm going to change that to telnet, and that with putty, you can go into any of your devices, of being able to get directly into devices. So then I'll click open. I should click open. It didn't like that. I didn't Something like that. I'm trying to remember. I shouldn't need to put an address here. Sure it is telling it. Alright. Maybe I'm wrong. No, we're going to go to the serial connection on it. That's an interesting one. I'm going to go ahead and do the default and ask if I want to terminate auto install. So I'm not sure what it did. Alright, so now it's already, it didn't give us all of the other stuff that for some reason, well I guess we didn't turn, this was already turned on. Because there's, I like to do the initial configuration, which you remember you did see on the switch. Let's see if we power this thing back on, what it will pop like this. It should pop all that other stuff up. Yeah, there we go. So now, since we turned this on after if we were connected, it was already on, it had already gone through all that initial stuff. So now you see it's popping up with all of that stuff that they showed in there, and that it tells us that it has done on that. And notice those lines all look similar to what you saw on your screen on it. Okay? They are going to vary, partly based on the model, and I don't think I've grabbed the same switch as y'all are using in there, but they're going to be similar there. It's now expanding actually the operating system out there is what it's doing. It does all of that. On y'all's, I think it showed it as a group of asterisks, such as the line of them or so. Not quite as drastic as that. And still bringing it up. And now that was the stuff that you really saw more of on there. And we should see that message again that we saw just a minute ago originally in a moment. There we go. So now we got to press return to get started. So notice it's the same thing you're seeing on that you're doing packet tracing. I'll see that part, that it really is the same thing there. Okay? So now if I hit enter, would you like to terminate auto install? So apparently this one calls it auto install on it, where the other said about do you want to do the auto configuration. Now on this, I won't say now because I don't remember which one's the newer one on it, but that one's probably the newer one. And so I'm going to say yes, that I do want to terminate auto install, where on there it asks if you want to do the automatic configuration, and you answer no. So the answer flip-flopped. So you got to read the question on it. So yes, I do. So I could hit enter, or I can hit the Y and enter. And now here's the initial configuration dialog. So there's the question we're really used to. So now, would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? And the answer is no on that. And I'm at the beginning. And notice it says switch. Like when it said S1 on us the other day, I believe, initially, but then when we actually reset the whole machine, it went back to switch on it. So they got something automatically changing the name to begin with on that one. So we're at switch. Host, we can do the enable just like we could on that one. And notice it changes to the number sign. if I went ahead and tried typing in host like I did the other day without going into config T, notice it gives me the same error as I had the other day. Okay, that invalid input detected. Pointing a little bit differently on where it's pointing at. This one's pointing at the word host. That one pointed on over at the CIST 2451. And that again is going to vary on a model on how it's exactly written in the OS for that one. Because we know the error really is that it doesn't know what to do with host. But it points at somewhere in the error area. And if you've ever noticed on other stuff, sometimes it's the same way. It doesn't always tell you exactly where, but sometimes you got to look before. Sometimes you got to look after to see what did you do wrong, and sometimes it's just somewhere on that line or maybe a line or two before. So now if I do config T, it then goes in configuration mode, goes to config. If I do host now, we'll call it cost. It changes the name. Does everybody follow on that? You see how it, so that y'all see how what you're doing in Packet Tracer really is the same thing as you do on the real equipment. Okay? Yes, it is a simulation there, but it's a very realistic simulation. Okay? So you're really getting, as far as doing the configurations on it, doing the same thing. And for that matter, you're not physically plugging wires in, but you're plugging similar, doing it similar, but you need to be aware on that. And so this course, I'm not going to have y'all making y'all do it, but when you go into the other 3 Cisco courses for the final exam, you have to come in and physically wire the devices on it, so that you've got the experience of having wired them like they're supposed to be done on the physical devices. Does everybody follow on that? Questions on that? Because I really want you to see the similarity. If I get students, they'll go, I did it in Packet Tracer, but I don't know if I could really work on the real equipment. Now you can see, yes, you can work on the real equipment. That all you got to be able to do is get into this piece of equipment. There's got to be some terminal emulation program for you to use to cross over to here. And you may run into, just like I did right there, that you have to try 1 or 2 things to get in there initially. To remember how is it that's doing the connection. And we're actually just doing a serial connection to here, so we're not using Telnet or SSH, but if we came across the internet into here, and that's just using through one of our regular ports, as long as we got that VTY ports open, we could actually Telnet or SSH into this device across the internet, as long as you've got the address for this device. More than likely you're not going to come across the internet on it, because more than likely this device doesn't have a public address, it just has a private address on it, and so you got to be within the network it's on. But then you can connect into here and do your config that way. Everybody follow on that? So because you can get in that easily, that's why you want to secure those VTY ports, like they show you doing right there in that first chapter. You might want to turn them off and just go in and put on the VTY ports no login, and then nobody can log into that port. You just killed the port. And you remember earlier during the chapter, no, that's in the security class. I mixed my classes all together because y'all are doing some similar things between them. So the 2 of you that are in the security one, remember that was mentioned about hardening and about disabling certain ports. You'd want to disable that VTY to make that switch hardened. So y'all get a little bit, if you're in a different class with me, you get a little bit of the other classes. So that all plays together. Any questions? Okay. Then, what is it we want to do now that we're logged on as him, that we can do stuff out there, because we're him, we're not us.
Is that recorder on over there? Is that recorder on over there?
Yes, the recorder's on. None over there, it's right here.
Make sure.
Why, you gonna ask for that as evidence later? So, we have logged him off at this point, but that's the reason you need to definitely log off the machines when you leave them. Okay? They do time out at some point, but I don't even know how long it is till they time out on them. It's fairly long on it. It's not real short on these. So you really do want to, if you're going to leave the machine, log out or lock it. Okay? Do y'all know how to lock these machines or lock any of the Windows machines?
Control L.
Not control, but it is the L. It's the Windows L. Key that looks like the Windows L on this one. On these, they've actually got one on both sides. A lot of them only have one Windows key on. And over on Kakusa machines there, they only have one on the left. And I really like this one on the right over here because it's right there by the L, so it's really easy to walk out of the office to hit the Windows L. So over there, I'm going to do it with one hand. I can do it, but it's stretching. Y'all can see that's as far as my finger's going to go. It's not going to go to the next key.
I lost my Windows key on my keyboard.
So, but that will lock your machine. And we're in here right now. If y'all walked in my office right now, y'all can't get on as me on there at the moment because it's locked. When I walk back in there, I gotta log on again. So, but I just restarted it on this one, so you're completely out of it. All right, any other questions on all of that? I think that's a good demonstration to show y'all on that, to make sure you do realize the relationship between the two. Now, like I told y'all, Packet Tracer originally, and it was some other name they had it originally, and then they changed it to Packet Tracer, I guess about 10 years ago, and came out with a much improved product that is continuously improving. Probably about 7 years ago. It seems like they do an update, major update every year. That's almost every year that we move up the sequence number on it. And that version 7 is the one that gets into the IoT devices and all of that. And added a few more commands on the other devices also, but a big part of going to version 7 was they added all of those things of the IoT devices that when you do the Packet Tracer one shows on there for you, that they told you about, where you can put ceiling fans and thermostats and everything else in there. And remember, out there in the real world, you can set all of that stuff if you've got the ones that are network ready, that you can set all of that stuff to run on your network. And depending on how you've got your network set and secured, you can go and control that stuff from another location. And y'all see the TV ads for doing that in terms of security and stuff. That you're at the ball game and go, wait a minute, did I forget to close the window? And that you can actually set stuff that will close or open your windows on the house or whatever. Or did I forget to lock the door? And that's an easy one. You can get door locks easily that are internet compatible. And so you can be away from the house. You can be across the country and go, ooh, did I lock the front door? And proceed to lock the front door from wherever. Or like I told you with the doorbells, that you can get the Ring doorbell, or there's another one, and I don't remember what the name of it is, that you can get that allows you to, has a camera built in it, and you can look outside, but it's can be onto the network too. And so then if you do that way on it, you can be wherever, and somebody rings the doorbell at your house, you can see who it is, and you can talk to them from anywhere in the world, as long as you've got internet capability there, which is just about anywhere now. Okay? All right. So that stuff is all, but that allows you in Packet Tracer to do a real good design of the stuff before you put it out. Copy y'all's configs from in Packet Tracer out to a text file, which I mentioned in the book to you. Just like you do it through the putty that they're showing you in the book of that you can do that. And you can copy from a real one, do the same thing. You can copy that text file back into the device in Packet Tracer, or vice versa. So you can create the whole thing in Packet Tracer, test it all out, make sure everything works correctly, and then copy out all of your configs for all of your devices on the text file, then shut down your network for just a short period of time, just long enough that it takes for you to go and update all of the devices with the new config files, power it back up, and eliminate at least 99% of possible problems at that point, because you already tested it in Packet Tracer. But I'm not saying 100%, because could well be something once you put it into live devices, something else could pop up in there. You see, but you've eliminated it and made it, because your other alternative is, and which is what a lot of organizations had to do in the past, is that you sit there, and there's other programs similar to Packet Tracer out there also that are commercially available. But don't ask me which ones they are, because I really don't know. That's what Cisco's using for their academy. That's all I pay attention to, really. But before those, you either shut your network down and then went through and configured everything however you wanted it now to be. I mean, you had designed some beforehand, but then you found out all the problems of what didn't work, whatever, and you may have had your network down for a good while. May have been days. And y'all know how critical and important the network is now. Or two, that you had a complete set of backup equipment, so that you had a full redundancy of equipment. But you want to probably have, if you've got equipment there, particularly if you've got multiple things on your network, that you want to have some redundancy on equipment. If you got spare equipment around, but you had to have 100% spare equipment to set up a network, try it, and then do it. And y'all can see what's associated there was a whole lot of money just to have that spare network running to work with. So it's a whole lot cheaper running, both in terms of equipment and manpower and loss of time to all of your other clients, be they company employees or outsiders that need to access stuff. Questions on that? So it is very realistic for you, okay? And in the past, before we had Packet Tracer, students had to do it just on the equipment in here. That meant you had to work on the labs just from at school, and that put more limitations on you also, because it had to be here, and there's only limited times you can really work on the stuff here. And now you can work on it anywhere. So it makes it a whole lot easier for y'all as students, and then it also makes it easier for me as instructor, because I can test it real clear on that. And the other, it was us having enough equipment, and we never had enough equipment for every student to have their own set of equipment. And it was checking stuff off, or you printing the stuff out and then me looking through it and reading it. And now I can look at what you turn in, the working copy, and double check it right off easily. And I can do it from wherever I am, not stuck here. And like I've mentioned, there's 2 times this semester I should be gone for a few days at least. That first week of March, I'm not sure how long. I know I'll be gone at least. Probably miss both classes that week, or may not. I may be here for Tuesday class and then leave out. But on Tuesday, I'll have to head for Eastern North Carolina. It'd be preferable. And I may have to leave on Monday. I don't know what. I'll have a meeting on Tuesday I got to attend or not, but I know the conference starts on Wednesday that I'm intending to go to. Runs Wednesday through Friday, and then I gotta be back in Macon or somewhere for Saturday morning. And it gets out at noon on Friday. So I gotta speak at another conference on that Saturday morning. And then the end of March, the 22nd or something like that, that Thursday, Friday, that I'll be out for Skills USA. And that's down in Atlanta. So that Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Or definitely Friday, Saturday, and it may be later in the day I'll leave on that for on Thursday. And then who knows what else may pop up. Because we may well have a state meeting of instructors sometime this semester. Normally we do, but they've delayed it, saying that they're going to do a complete review of the curriculum and that we're going to have to do that, but they want to wait and do it in some sequence, and we don't know when they're going to pick our meeting to be. And usually we have it there in that March time frame too. And that'll be a day, or I'll have to be gone somewhere at least a day. I'm on the exec committee, so it may be a couple of days. They may have a meeting with us first and then a meeting with everybody. All right, questions? If not, I'm going to let y'all head on out if there's not something else y'all need gone over in this chapter today. Next week, if I remember right in the book, we get into the models, and that we'll talk about the OSI model and the TCP/IP model, and see how stuff is supposed to work as it goes through the network. And then the rest of the book will be working actually with those layers of that model about what happens on a specific layer, all the stuff that happens at that point. And it will spend at least one chapter on each layer, and some chapters, there's a couple of layers that we'll spend two chapters on. And that's actually where I've actually added a week into a chapter at that point, or should have. Realize the schedule that is on there, the student guide on your syllabus, and as I get the thing laid on out, I should get it right in Blackboard, but realize that we could switch around on a chapter of which one goes longer, because I may not have the correct one there for the longerness, because I didn't really look at chapters again on it. I actually used what I had put out there before, and I may have one of those wrong. It needs to be longer, or needs to steal from another week. All right, then I will see y'all on Tuesday. And y'all get to go freeze again outside today, since the temperature dropped all night. I was at about midnight last night. It was still close to 50 degrees. It was actually climbing after the sun went down last night. Until then, every time I looked at the thermometer, it had gotten warmer by a degree or so, and was on up into the high 40s in there. And then this morning, it was 32 degrees when I left, and it probably was a little cooler than that before that.
It's been snowing up on the mountain.
Actually, when I was coming up to the school at 9 o'clock and driving from Lafayette, I thought I saw some flakes down there. There were little tiny ones. I thought that's what hit on my windshield there. That.
It's so hard to tell. That was melting somewhere.
Huh?
It's always so hard to tell. They melted somewhere.
So there may be some of that fall today too, because we are on the line between the snow and the rain, and that's what for the last week they've kept saying, that we were going to be on the line of the area on that, and depending on how that line moved, depending on whether we got snow or rain. And if you remember looking at the forecast for the last week for yesterday, that depending on which day you looked at it, depending on whether they said it was going to snow or it was going to rain. Obviously we got a ton of rain yesterday, because y'all can look in front of the school and tell that, because that area in front of the parking lot is as full as it can get, and the water polo field's ready for y'all to go play water polo. That's when you came by the baseball field out there behind the fire department, that it was all standing in water. And when that one gets water on it, we've hit the high points on it. Because the other one, it doesn't take a whole lot. It starts getting water in there by the railroad tracks. When the fall course, we've got a ton of water has come down. And probably the pond behind the school that's dry is probably not dry today too. You can probably see water standing down in it where they dumped all the cuttings from the trees and everything else down there. That used to be a pond down there when it was private land, but that's part of school property down there. Because we actually own up into the woods back there. It's probably got water in it too. All right, have a good weekend. And I got to go help 2 students today with their computers that burdened in to me, and one of them said she was from PRC, and I'm not sure which, so I'm bringing it 11:30. If y'all have not gotten me the permission forms, make sure you get me the permission forms. Okay, and y'all can print them here.
I had a question. You and I were talking last night in the 9 o'clock collab session about like Security Plus.
Yeah.
What was the book that you said?
The CIST Security Plus Study Guide. Since I haven't done the new test for the 500 series, I can't say for sure on that one. The 400 series, which I took a year ago, and I failed it, but I didn't fail it by much. I think 70 was the passing score, and I made like 62 or something on it. But they were starting to come out with the 500 at that point, and so I wasn't going to redo that one again at that point. And I was also in a course on it. So after I took it, then I found out the library over on the other campus had a 400 level book in it. So it's actually Mr. Spurlock got it out of there when we were talking about it, that he had seen it down there and brought it back and went through looking at it. And there was a number of questions, and there were questions in that book that I had seen on the test. There were a couple of questions I didn't know what in the world it was when I saw it. And distinctly, when I flipped in that book, I also saw a couple of those questions. And then I knew what the right answer was to the question. Because it had asked some specific little things, and I don't even remember what they were, but it was an acronym or something that I didn't recognize. But they had a lot of things that I knew was, the two were very closely aligned. So I've got the 500 level series book then, so I went and bought the book then. And it includes with it on that study guide 2 practice tests and a number of tests on their chapters where they're reviewing the material for you. And so you can go online and then you get, I think it's a year's access to the test, and that they have you register at that point. You can actually get a used copy of that book and register to get the test online also, because what it does when you go to register for the test out there, it asks you a question of something that's in the book. On me, it asked me, I think it was, what is the caption on figure 3-13? And that I had to look in the book and see what was the message under figure 3-13, type that in, and then it let me have full access to the materials. Okay, so it verifies that you actually have a copy of the book. Okay, obviously somebody can share the book around with several people and work as long as they all could look at the book when they went to look to do on it. So if you got a used copy of the book, it would still work perfectly fine, because you'd have all the material in there to look at to be able to answer their classical questions. So they're not making you have to, so it's not a case of where they got a code like you got in some of your classes and stuff. And some books do that it has a code comes with the book, and then once the code's used, that it can't be used again. Cybex is obviously taking a middle ground on it. They're making it some secure on it, but not making it a tight thing, and so that people aren't stuck on it. So if you go out on Amazon and see the book listed there as a used one real cheap, as long as it's a 500 series, because you want the 500 series of the test. So these things are kept for good, but it's much more now, because I went through a train-the-trainer course of it a year ago. It's much more now scenario type questions. It's not asking facts as such now. It's asking the facts in the midst of that if you're working at a certain location and you see such and such or something that you're going to use, but it's still a factual question and a lot of times on that.
Do you think Security Plus is a hard test?
It's not supposed to be a hard test. And I hadn't, when I say I was that close on it and I hadn't studied for it at that point. I had sat through this class, partway through the class on the train-the-trainer to teach it, but that was for the new test, not the old test. And so he would tell us some things, sometimes saying the old test did it this way or something, but from what I've heard from people that have done the new test, they say it's an easier test, and that was what he commented to us in the class and stuff, that he said it actually got easier with the new one.
Because right now I work in a plant and it's killing me right now, but if you got Security Plus, it would help you get into the IT field easily, right?
And actually, like for the U.S. government jobs that are anything that's a security job with the U.S. government, from my understanding, they're requiring Security Plus for those people to have that basic security clearance that are working with computers. And so that again says it's probably not that hard of a test because they're making all of them have that on it. And that's not higher level security jobs, that's just entry level security jobs. So it's pretty much just a basic knowledge of what security is, because it asks some things about what a firewall does, and that type stuff. It does get into the difference between IDS and IPS of actually just detecting things coming across the firewall. Either one of those or do both. Detecting things and sending off a signal that something's come across looking suspicious, or are you preventing things, which is the IPS, and those that actually block the traffic coming through. And so it asks some things on that level on it and such. Also, a little bit of stuff on the antivirus and that type of things, and I think there were some questions in terms of, if I remember right, of what a virus was versus what Trojan horse was, of a little basic definitions on that type of thing. And you can see where you could put it into build into a scenario and still ask just a factual question on it. But they'll no longer, it's not just what is this such and such, it's, you got to read it out of the guy's working on something and sees this activity, or and then the answers might be a Trojan horse virus or whatever, and for you. And that you just got to be able to read the question out of the scenarios and know what the knower. And that's a big part on scenarios, is as you look through it, you look at the answers, so that then as you read through it, some of the stuff that's in there, you toss it out, that it's got nothing to do with the question. And that you're looking for the information to deal specifically what they're wanting to know.
Because that's probably add that onto my plate of things to do.
Because I wanted to do it last fall. I've said since last spring that I'm going to do it, and I've actually started taking the practice test at Christmas. So I've just been doing them on the weekends and not gotten a chance to really do them during the week because I got to go. I thought once I got myself activated with and it asked for create an account with my username, I should be able to just go back into it from other machines and get to it using that username, but it's throwing an error about the URL I'm going to, and so I can't get to it from another machine, and so I think I'm going to have to register it again, and I use my laptop normally on the weekend because I'm on the road a lot of times. I use my desktop during the week. Well, I've got it on the laptop, it works fine on the laptop, but when I'm here during the week, I don't really want to get the laptop out and try sitting there working with the laptop. But I've been consistently making on it on the practice test, which has got 25 or 50 questions on it. I think I'm doing 50 questions on it, but I'm consistently making somewhere around 90 to 100. And so I'm fully expecting, I'm ready for it. I just got to register and go take it. And I'm hoping, I've said for a couple of weeks now, I've been thinking to do it next week. Well, I'm still in that mode.
And you said they administer a test here?
Mm-hmm. You know where you took the admissions test? Or, if not, over,
yeah, the one,
over in the 100 building. But you know, you probably took the admissions test across the hall from it, but there they got the 2 testing rooms there, and they got the room there that's got the glass barrier inside of it. That's where they give the test.
Okay.
Okay? That's why it's got that glass wall across there, and the administrator sits on one side, and you've got all those testing spots inside there. It's that the administrator can sit there and watch to make sure nobody's cheating there or whatever.
What I would do is just, once you register for the test, you register to take it here,
Yes.
and then,
Because when you go to register to take it, it's going to ask you the location, and then it's going to give you what days and times are available at that location, and then you'll choose your day and time to take it in. And then when you go to take it, the only thing you want to walk in with is your clothes on, but pockets empty, no watch, no phone, but have your ID, your driver's license, and some other ID card. If you've got a credit card, they like credit cards for the ID, but something else. The school ID should work for you also, but I don't know for that. But you definitely need 2 IDs carried separately. They've got a locker there, so you can put everything in the locker that they can get rid of. But the easier thing to me normally is just put all the stuff in the trunk of my car when I go off to testing locations or whatever. Before I go in, walk back there, open the trunk, and pull out my wallet, and just pull out the ID card, 2 IDs for them, and just stick them loose in my pocket, and then empty everything else out, because they don't want any keys or anything else, because they don't want anything now that may be convenient that you might be able to use, connect to the internet on. And at this point in time, we know that just about everything. But they do let you wear your glasses. That they're not concerned on that. That I assume they've been told about watching for Google Glass or whatever on it.
I don't even think Google Glass took off.
Because that didn't go very far.
It did.
I know a guy that got them, but
It was a good concept, but they just need to...
but to me, I was going. It would drive me crazy on it.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a neat little idea there, and I've seen somebody else has done the same type thing. It's supposed to work a little better, but I just don't think I'm not going to be real content with that.
Yeah.
I might be wrong.
I mean, give it like 5 more years or so. Maybe.
It might be something that catches on in the future.
I could see like a heads-up display, 24 like at all times.
But so, and like your watches, that you can know so many of them are sitting there doing internet.
I don't think.
Now me, I've got just a traditional watch on my arm.
I bought the new Samsung smartwatch. That's nice.
You know, but I have to take my watch off for. Now there are some testing locations that that they'll look at stuff and they're not quite as picky on it, that they're keeping an eye on. But I can tell you here, it is nothing. That they don't want anything on you. It seems like pretty much they want no jewelry or anything else, because they're following the rules tight here on it.
I would have to come to you to get a voucher?
Yeah.
For it? Okay.
And then if you just get with me when you want to buy a voucher for it, let's say it's about 50% off. It may be a little bit more, a little bit less, because I'm thinking it's either 55% off or that 45% off, but it's really right at about half price.
The test is like $400, isn't it?
I think it's 189.
I was looking online. I looked yesterday.
Now, some things you see out there on it, watch carefully, that sometimes they're wanting to sell you some cleaning materials with it.
I googled like how much the test cost, and I could have sworn like One of his websites.
I'll try to remember. Send me an email and ask me, and I can look it up on what the current pricing is, because they just sent me new pricing in December for what the 2019 pricing is.
Okay.
Because it's with that CompTIA Academy that we got signed on the wall back there for, that we get, that the students and faculty can get them all for, they say they're about half off.
And is A+ much more difficult? I have a friend who's up in Nashville, and he's Network Plus. He said Network Plus was the hardest one he did. But Security Plus was the easiest.
Network Plus is not very difficult to me. What you learn in this, once you get through this class, now Cisco says for the first 2 classes, but really I would tell you that what you get through this class, you're ready to take Network Plus. And I just did Network Plus in the spring. And I passed it. And I had it before from back in the 90s, but I did it again in the spring. So when I do these train-the-trainer classes, they give me a free voucher. And so I went and took it afterwards. And passed it and did good on it. I think I made 80 something on it. My only adjustment when I go and take tests is to make passing score. There's other people out there will tell you they're trying to get 100 or whatever on it. All I want to do is get whatever the passing score is. Because on some cases they don't even show you after that. In some cases they don't even give you the final score. That one irritates me. I don't mind it on the passing part, but on the failing part, when I hit a couple of those tests, that I'm going, that's not any help to me. I really want to know how close am I, because if I'm way off, I'm just going to give up on this one. But if I'm real close on that one, when I did Security Plus last fall, I was real close on it. And so I'm quite confident on this next time doing it. A+ has been fairly simple on it. It has changed to a new test now, and it's supposed to be, they claim it's a little bit harder, and it's also gone a little bit more scenario based. It's gone back. One test is hardware, the software, it's got blended some. And I'm getting ready to go take that one on the hardware test. I believe it is. I gotta look and see again. I'm taking the next class to teach it. The new one started this week on Tuesday night, but I didn't attend it on Tuesday night. It's online, and I can attend it later. And I've got classes on Tuesday and Thursday night, so it's on Tuesday and Thursday night. I've got classes on Tuesday night. I may sit for July's session tonight. And since I got class stuff on Monday, Wednesday night, Thursday night, a lot of times, I'm going to do something for myself on that night. That's my night. And sitting there and watching a live thing is not always what I want to do. Although with the way things are today and everything, and I didn't end up with doing something else, I'll probably watch the session live tonight, and I got to watch the first session, because as long as I watch all of the sessions in the next 10 weeks by the time we finish it, whether live or do a tape recorded one, they'll give me a voucher when I finish the class. Now, A+ is going to cost you more if you got to take 2 tests. And those is in that same price range there.
Who does the hardware installation class here?
Who teaches it?
Yeah,
It varies, because there's different ones teaching it.
Because I'm having an issue with my laptop. It doesn't blue screen, but it'll freeze randomly. It'll just, the screen will just completely freeze. I have 2 monitors set up. Freezes on both of them, and if there's audio going, it'll make like a buzzing sound, and then after a minute it like stops. But the screens will stay frozen. Now, I've looked into it. I've changed cables. I've done everything I could. I just can't seem to see what the issue would be.
Have you gone through and run a full antivirus scan?
Yeah. What's
And which one are you using?
Malwarebytes, and I'm using Malwarebytes and that Super Spy
Okay. And so you've run a full scan with both of those? Okay. Second question, have you gone in and done a cleaning on your registry?
No.
Okay. Get C cleaner. That's 2 C's.
Oh, I used to use it.
Okay. Get C cleaner and it continuously gets updated versions of it. Run the registry cleaner in that and see if that helps some. It sounds like, although if it's locking up like that, it sounds like though you may have a heat problem too. Is this a desktop or a laptop?
Laptop. I had the cooling fan underneath it. I probably could go through and clean out my fans. I did it a while back.
Because I wonder on if you're getting a heat problem in there. So I would definitely suggest on, and you don't have to open it up. And I don't like opening up laptops anyway because a lot of them are hard to put back together.
Mine's actually fairly simple.
Is yours?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have wires that you got to try to get connected back and everything. It'll let you open it up and get in there. I would open it up and get your can of compressed air and blow the whole thing out. So.
I did that when I first started doing it. That's what I did.
Okay.
And it seemed to work a little bit. I don't know. I probably need to get some thermal gel.
The other part is then double check your drivers on the video card and see, but with it doing like that, that just sounds like you're probably getting some type of heat problem or something is blocking on it.
Well, yeah, my drivers, I use in the video, and they constantly update the drivers, and I keep mine up to date with the latest NVIDIA drivers, so I guess I can go through and try to...
But I definitely get the C cleaner, try that, and see if cleaning the registry helps it any, because it could be something in there to it. But more than likely it's something probably coming off your video card on it, is what it sounds like.
I just hate... there's like a little bit of dust on the fans that I've tried to reach, but I can't because it's kind of...
Okay.
I'm so scared to take anything off that.
I wouldn't, because if it's just a little bit on it, because as long as you've got pretty much free area and that stuff's not built up in there on the whole motherboard, and as long as it's open, the vents are open where you can cool the air across there, and you should be okay.
I'm sitting on a cooling pad.
So then that doesn't sound like on that, but it goes and just locks on the screen, just locks on you.
Both screens, it just freezes. I can't use mouse or nothing.
Have you tried running it with just one screen?
No.
And see if that has an impact on it, of not attaching the second screen to it?
I can try that, yeah.
Try that and see if it's, when it's pulling both screens possibly on. But I'll try to look up some stuff for you.
I've tried to look into it, but everything I looked at, it was all crash stuff. It's not crashing. Crashing is like blue screen. This is just freezing.
Does it unfreeze at all on you, or do you have to restart it?
I usually just hard restart it.
So it doesn't, if you let it sit there for a little bit, it doesn't free back up?
I've let it sit there once for like almost 45 or so minutes.
Okay. So it is locking up completely and not one of those, because sometimes you get some things that it'll lock it up for a few minutes or whatever and you wait and then all of a sudden we freeze back up again. Okay. I'll try to look for some stuff for you too on that.
I think I may just be, because I have the monitor hooked up to it, I have keyboard, mouse, my headphone, or my headset. I have all this stuff drawing that power from that. I don't know if that would have anything to do from it. I'm just trying to pull too much.
Shouldn't be, because like your monitor's separately powered anyway.
Yeah, it is. I changed the HDMI cables on that too.
So it's,
Sure.
but I would try it without that extra second monitor and run it through where you know it normally occurs at. And it's,
That's the thing, it occurs at different, and it's not like every day. It'll be like once this day, and then maybe a week later it'll happen twice in one day. But I'll be doing
Okay.
the same stuff on it.
Mhm.
So I don't, that's,
but I would, if you can, if you can try it for a day or two, running just the one monitor and see if anything happens. And just see if it might be, because it might be when you're trying to pull the food, because there is a separate pull on it then, because it's feeding out on that. See if that makes any difference. But then if it's not happening very often, that's going to be hard to figure out if it really did anything or not.
cause I would think about just trying to sell my laptop, because it's a nice laptop. It's a gaming one. If it keeps happening, when I got taxes back, I was just gonna go buy like some unearthly beast of a machine, like $2,000 rig or something like that. Just
But I'll try to look out and see if I see some stuff for you.
okay. All right, that would be very
Mhm.
I will email you about the voucher.
And then like on the voucher, whenever, email me and I'll get you the price for that. And then whenever you're ready to get it, you need to have a credit card and you can do it.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.